To Widener Law Commonwealth. I'm Michael Hussey, Dean of the Law School. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our CLE this afternoon on Hiding in Plain Sight, Unmasking Human Trafficking. We're really excited at the law school. This is one of our first in-person and remote events where we have people here again on campus for CLE, and we have many folks joining us online as well. So we're delighted to have all of you with us today. For those of you that are here in person, for the question and answer part, we'll have note cards for you. You can write your questions on that. We'll collect them down front. For those of you that are online with us, we have the chat feature, and you can put your question in the chat and send it to me, and we'll collect those so we have those questions at the end for us. I'd like to take this moment to introduce our speakers today. We have with us Stephen Turner. He's retired from the Pennsylvania Governor's Office of General Counsel. He served as Chief Counsel to the Department of State. He also served as Chief Counsel to the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, Chief Counsel to the Office of Inspector General, and Deputy General Counsel to the OGC Main Office. He received his bachelor's degree from the University of Redlands in California and his law degree from Temple University. He has volunteered in programs serving children both in the Philadelphia area and in Harrisburg. He has served as a domestic violence advocate, trainer, and pro bono PFA, Protection from Abuse Order, attorney for the YWCA of Greater Harrisburg's Domestic Violence Clinic. He is a co-founder of the YWCA Men's Against Domestic Violence Program and a member of the Dauphin County Domestic Violence Task Force. He has worked for the YWCA in its Violence Intervention and Prevention Program. He served as a crisis advocate coordinator and training specialist focusing on human trafficking, sexual assault, and domestic violence victims. He is currently an independent contractor providing human trafficking victim advocacy and training. We're pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Heather Castellino, who is a career prosecutor and has served in the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General since 2000. She worked as a senior deputy attorney general in the organized crime section, has worked since 2005. While working in the organized crime section, she is responsible for investigating and prosecuting organized crime activities through the use of all forms of electronic surveillance, undercover operatives, and statewide investigating grand juries. Since 2008, she has been the primary prosecutor for cases involving human trafficking at the Attorney General's office. She has coordinated and prosecuted numerous human trafficking cases with the Pennsylvania State Police Organized Crime Unit, agents from the PA Office of the Attorney General, local municipality police departments, and the Department of Homeland Security investigations. These cases have resulted in convictions in both state and federal court. She earned her BA from Temple University and her law degree from Villanova. And we have two speakers who are not here yet with us later in the program. I'll introduce them now to you. The first is Nicole Basil. She is the unit director at UPMC Forensic Nursing Department. The Forensic Nursing Department provides 24/7 medical forensic care to patients of any age and gender who have experienced sexual abuse or assault, intimate partner violence, strangulation, elder abuse, and human trafficking. She holds a Master of Science in Nursing from Chamberlain University and received her undergraduate nursing degree from Penn State. She is certified as both a sexual assault nurse examiner, adult, adolescent, and pediatrics. She is a member of the Pennsylvania chapter of the International Association of Forensic Nurses. Nicole is also the chair of the Cumberland County Sexual Assault Response Team. She is deemed an expert witness in Dauphin, Cumberland, Perry, and York counties. She provides education and training on topics ranging from sexual violence, intimate partner violence, strangulation, and human trafficking. And our final speaker is Trooper Jason Cachara, who is employed by the Pennsylvania State Police. Since 2005, he has been with Troop H and its Criminal Investigative Unit. There, he primarily focuses on child abuse cases and death investigations. And I would like to make special mention of our first-year student, Jessica Collier, who reached out to Professor Jill Family before Jessica was even enrolled in school here and inquired about doing a program on human trafficking. And this event flowed from there, so we thank Jessica for throwing out that idea and making it happen. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Turner to get us started.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is this on? Okay, great. And I know Nicole Basil, who is Nicole, I just saw her poking through the window there, so we'll get her down here. And just so you know, Trooper Cachara, Jason is a crime investigation unit trooper for Troop H, which is kind of South Central PA. He's working trafficking cases, and he also works homicides. He's on the street right now. I told him, Jason, if you can be here by 5, we're fine, because we go from 4 to 6. Because I didn't want to take 1 extra second of his street time away, because what he does, I mean, he's working these big cases. Heather Castellino. Heather is an amazing career prosecutor at the Attorney General's office, the Organized Crime Unit, which is headquartered down in Norristown, outside of Philly. They do amazing stuff, and not only kind of standard organized crime, like Cosa Nostra, the mafia, et cetera, but other forms of organized criminal activity. And not only drug cases, but other OC, organized crime. And we got Nicole, and Nicole, come on down. And Nicole Basil. Nicole is the head. You come down here, please. Come on. Yes. Nicole does amazing work. I mean, as a forensic nurse, she is in the emergency department, right here, pal, right here. She is in the emergency department working with the ER nurses and the physicians. When somebody comes into the ED and they have evidence of a sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, the floor nurse will call for a forensic nurse. Nicole has to, in a trauma-informed, compassionate, and in a way where people have been horrifically traumatized, to approach them, to talk about, if it's applicable, performing a rape kit, which is one of the most intimate and important procedures you can do when you're trying to ensure that whoever did a sexual assault or rape to somebody, that if there's a way to stop it, we need that. And so her job is very difficult. It's amazing. And I've worked with her, but we're going to get to that. Come on. Maybe I'm too far back. I can do this manually. Maybe not. Thank you. They never leave the tech stuff to me. Thank you. First thing we're going to do is a trigger warning. What that means is this. We are going to be talking about domestic violence, rape, sexual assault, human trafficking. For those of you in this room, for those of you virtually, one thing that we find is, by doing these types of presentations, some people will have survived domestic violence or sexual assault or rape, or a good friend or a family member. It can strike very close to home. If at any point anyone in this room needs to step out, please do. I mean, we want you taking care of yourself, and we will remain afterwards to talk as well. If you're online and you need to turn this off or walk away, please do. Because there is no Nickelodeon or Disney version of this. This is raw. It's horrible stuff, but it's real. And again, Dean, I mean, thank you so much for letting us be here, because And thank you so much for letting us be the first hybrid or in-person thing coming out of COVID. I mean, we really appreciate this. But nobody needs to be a hero with trauma. I mean, really, I want people taken care of. Okay, this is an ethics presentation. And I'm going to cover real quickly some of these ethics rules here. This is a little bit different. A lot of ethics presentations can turn out to be, in-depth discussions of hypotheticals, et cetera. Always the attorney-client privilege, taking the money, et cetera. This is a little different because trafficking is a different kind of case. The trauma, the repeated, and Nicole is going to talk about this too. Complex, repeated, premeditated trauma. I mean, it's almost impossible to imagine unless you have survived it. But this calls for a different type of competence. I mean, you've got to bring everything you possibly can, not only from the law, but from life and from your experience and your compassion for human beings. And so it calls for a whole person to be there for the client. Confidentiality of information. We live in this world. In fact, the work that I do, Heather is wearing her lawyer hat as a prosecutor, and she's bound by the ethical rules and by actually, extra rules that prosecutors that when I was a prosecutor, we have an extra burden. I mean, we have to serve justice. Criminal defense lawyer, he or she, they can do anything ethically to try and get to the other side. I mean, if we have a hole in our case and we need to dismiss whole or part of it for justice, we will. It's not just win-loss columns for prosecutors. I mean, we have, I think, the highest duty, and we have to take that seriously. And sometimes it is very, very problematic when you have to dismiss whole or part of a case because there's a problem with it. But confidentiality runs heavy through this. And you want to make sure, though, that you have clients who may be facing possibly reasonably certain death or substantial bodily harm. What do you do with a client confidence where somebody is at risk of death or substantial bodily harm, or somebody else is? And that can put you in an ethical conundrum that is not in any of these books. And some of these things can happen in a heartbeat. They can go very, very quickly. Due to the criminal statutes, if a woman, a man, a girl, or a boy is engaged in sex or money, some police officers would come after them for prostitution. So it takes a holistic view of this to understand what is a crime and what is not a crime. Because Heather and I have talked about this too. To me, the word prostitution, that implies a self-direction and control over one's destiny and decisions. Nobody that is trafficked is in charge of the decisions. Every single thing happening to them is out of their control. And it is due to coercion, force, fraud, brutality. Client with diminished capacity. This is where, again, it's so good that we have a forensic nurse here with us. One of the things we see, this applies not only in domestic violence situations and sexual assault, but also in trafficking. Your capacity to make decisions, to take care of yourself, to aid and assist in a case, et cetera. How do you get your head around being raped 15, 20, or more times per day? day after day, week after week, month after month, with no end in sight. And then along the way, you were hit, you were beaten, you were strangled, you're addicted to some substance. If you weren't beforehand, the trafficker will get you addicted. So your capacity to make informed judgments, that is necessarily impacted. That means we lawyers, we have obligations to our clients and to the system to help people who are in horrific situations. One of the things that we screen for all the time at the YWC of Greater Harrisburg, where I operate out of, we have a 16-bed shelter for women and up to 12 accompanying children for both domestic violence and human trafficking. Every 8 hours, we do an end of shift report. There's a report right now at 4 o'clock. I checked that report. We have no open beds. We have babies, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds in there right now. Somebody comes in right now, we will bring them in and we'll find them housing somewhere else, whether it's domestic violence or trafficking. But that trauma of coming in, that affects their ability to make decisions and also to make decisions about their children too. One of the things we do as well at the domestic violence shelter is we do a TBI, a traumatic brain injury screen when you come in. We ask a whole bunch of questions. And this is where our forensic nurses have been so helpful in terms of working on the screening questions. Because again, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a paramedic, I'm not a physician. But we consult with them all the time. We will send our clients oftentimes to Harrisburg Hospital's emergency department to get medically cleared to bring them in, because we want to make sure they're okay. Traumatic brain injury can manifest itself, injuries that can occur and manifest themselves 24, 36 hours later. The risk of stroke rises through a lifetime. So we have to take extra care. So as we're walking through this, as we're looking at all this information that all of us are going to share, just keep these in mind, that this is different in terms of what we do and how we do it. 2.1, advisor. Nobody ever looks at this rule, but this rule really calls upon us to look not only the law, but moral, economic, social, and political factors that may be relevant to the client situation. Again, you know, the normal approach, not only in the law school, wherever it is, but out in the practice world. You're not normally dealing with TBI, with serial commercial rape, with organized criminal activity, with a level of hyperviolence that's hard to comprehend. So we have to look at other factors and bring them in as part of a full and vigorous representation. And finally, pro bono. For those of you who are attorneys, thank you for doing pro bono. This law school has an excellent, excellent ethic about pro bono. You have a fantastic clinic. I mean, and you all as students, whether you're here in this room or coming in by video, I mean, I can tell you, pro bono will be some of the best cases in your life. You won't get paid a penny, but you will carry those with you throughout. Heather.
Thanks, Steve. So if you all could do me a favor and just let me know, I'm going to keep my mask on instead of the face shield. So if for some reason you can't hear me, please let me know. But I think this microphone should do the trick. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the human trafficking law in Pennsylvania. Most people refer to it as commercial sex or prostitution with force, fraud, or coercion. The definition in Pennsylvania is a little bit more complicated than that. So I'm just going to hit on a couple of the main statutes and just walk through them this afternoon. So the first one is actually entitled Trafficking in Individuals. So It has two sections here. And the first one is recruits, entices, solicits, harbors, transports, provides, obtains, or maintains an individual if the person knows or recklessly disregards that the individual will be subject to involuntary servitude. So the fact that involuntary servitude is there and doesn't have necessarily a common meaning is the first clue that there's going to be another important definition, or that person knowingly benefits financially or receives anything of value from any act that facilitates any activity described in paragraph 1. So that's a lot of verbiage. The first thing I like to do when I attempt to explain what trafficking in individuals, involuntary servitude, or human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking, is in Pennsylvania, is by saying what it's not. I'm sure there's people watching or people in this room that actually know the difference between human smuggling and human trafficking. But unfortunately, I still think there's a lot of people out there who think the two are one and the same. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to use this analogy, but the movie Taken, where a girl, a teenage girl, a young girl, is basically kidnapped by some bad guys and forced into sex work. I've never seen the movie, but I'm told that's the basic premise. Yes, I'm sure that happens, but that's not generally what we're seeing in Pennsylvania, and I would dare to say probably throughout the country. So that relates to the subsection 1. You can see that transport is only one of the things that they mention here in subsection 1. So it could be a form of trafficking, but I think to focus on recruits, entice, solicits, harbors, provides, obtains, or maintains are the real key words here. And that would lead us, I'm going to skip ahead. Oh, somehow my 3012, for some reason, is not in my PowerPoint, but it's easy enough to talk about. So involuntary servitude talks about what we refer to as the means of subjecting an individual to human trafficking. There's 13 separate means or ways to do that. One of those 13 is kidnapping. I've worked on a number of different cases throughout the past 12 years or so, and not one has involved kidnapping. I have had every other subsection, so the other 12, come up either one at a time or multiple subsections in one case. I think most people would agree that are working on those cases here in Pennsylvania that that's more common. And one of the most common we see is controlling an individual's access to a controlled substance. So what does that mean? Really, what it means is you're a trafficker or a pimp, and you have an individual working for you, and you either get her addicted, and I say her, but it could be her or him. That's what I've seen more often. Either introduce that individual to a controlled substance, or you go so far as to recruit an individual who you know is already addicted to a controlled substance, and you provide that controlled substance or drug only if the victim performs what you expect from them, which is the commercial sex or the prostitution. I've seen that in every case that I've encountered, unfortunately, and I've seen cases where that is the only form of control that the pimp or the trafficker uses.
And Heather, let me just throw in here for a second. Yeah, and on the street, it's drug sick. I mean, that's the term, because if you, whatever it is, coke, crack, meth, molly, heroin, fentanyl, whatever the street combo is, I mean, we were discussing, we can't keep up with street name changes. I mean, you know,
Yeah, and the victims will use the term dope sick, drug sick.
Yep, yep.
And
And
a lot of times I think it's a hard concept for people, the average person, to grasp that that's, you know, does that mean that the person can't leave, the victim can't leave? Well, in his or her mind, they can't, because they need access to that controlled substance. Or they, in their minds, physically, mentally can't exist.
Yep, and that drug sick, I mean, that drug sick coercive power, you know, you don't like being drug sick, then here's what you're going to do. And I don't want any problems from you, and et cetera. And that, when you are chasing whatever that needle is that you need in your arm to even semi-function, you're going to do what you got to do. Sorry.
No, thank you. It's very true. And there's a lot of other ways a trafficker can recruit and control a victim of trafficking. And I use the term victim because I'm a prosecutor, and that's when I encounter the individuals who hopefully later become survivors. I'm usually talking to them when they're either in the middle of this happening to them or shortly thereafter. So I use the term victim. But there's a lot of things that the traffickers use to recruit or groom the victims. And they have generally different vulnerabilities. The drug use is just one. A lot of times the victims come from a significantly broken home, or they're homeless. They have children they're trying to support and have no means to do so. A lot of times the vulnerability is some kind of mental disability or mental illness, and the traffickers become experienced in determining what works and what doesn't work depending on their individual prey, the victim's specific vulnerabilities. So, like I said, there's 13 different means to do that. The one I see most commonly is drug use. There's also what I think a lot of people would think of in terms of violence, an assault, a threat of an assault, threatening another person. I've seen where the trafficker, and I've seen this many times, where the trafficker knows about the victim's children or family and threatens to either directly harm the victim's family or children, or pick up the phone and say, do you want me to call Children and Youth or DHS and let them know that what you're doing for a living, that you're prostituting? So they actually use that or attempt to use that against the victim. This next section I put in here, it's a relatively new statute or portion of the statute that talks about patronizing a victim of sexual servitude. So this is what is addressing the demand issue. So in essence, if people aren't, I'm no economist, but I think it's pretty basic that if there aren't people out there looking for commercial sex, there's not going to be a demand for it, and it would hopefully reduce the amount of commercial sex and then therefore sex trafficking. So it was recently, the statute was recently changed and made a felony of the first degree to basically be a John of for an individual that's being trafficked. And you can see here that if we can't prove that they knew that the individual or victim was subject to trafficking, it's a third degree. So this section ties into part of what Steve was saying about victim protection, and it comes into play for us as prosecutors most commonly in the course of discovery. And this is something that I think is not known by many defense attorneys either, or prosecutors, until you have to deal with this. This is actually verbatim the section which says, basically, we can't disclose the names of the victims, which presents a problem sometimes during the course of discovery. But even before that, in a charging document, we generally don't use, because of this section, the names of the victims. If you're a defense attorney, that's the first thing that you and your client want to know. So what I've seen happen in some of the cases that I've dealt with is we actually request that the court order us to provide that information, but until then, we don't provide that information, anything that would identify that particular victim. So that's a little nod to the ethics too, I think.
Yes.
So this is a slide that I use in other presentations, and was attached to my law slides when I sent them in. And, you know, we talked about it, and I think to me, it's a very powerful statement. And I'll give you a little bit of background as to why. This was a case that I worked on within the last couple of years in Lancaster County. We had about 8 victims come in and testify against 2 individuals that had been responsible for trafficking them throughout southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, and then into central Pennsylvania. During the course of, I don't want to say the most powerful witness's testimony or the most powerful victim, but she is definitely one of the most powerful victims to testify that I've heard. And this is a quote from her testimony. She told the judge and the jury everything that these traffickers had done to her, everything that from physical assaults to threatening her family, threatening her children, getting her addicted to drugs and withholding the drugs, making her dope sick. She ended up in the hospital on multiple occasions. Would have been great if she was a nurse when she was there, but she fell through the cracks of the system over and over again. But there were 2 state troopers from the organized crime section down in Southeast PA that I worked with, worked and went above and beyond and made this case what it was. When she testified, this quote that she gave came during cross-examination. She actually said this on her own because she wanted to, this wasn't the one during cross-examination. This is a statement that she made at sentencing. There was a statement that she made on cross-examination where she looked directly at the troopers and said, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for those 2. And, you know, you could have heard a pin drop in the courtroom, and she meant it. And it's probably true. But this is what she said at sentencing, that I'm relieved that you can no longer torture, manipulate, or sexually exploit another woman, making her feel worthless. I'm not a junkie or a prostitute. I'm someone's mother. I'm someone's daughter. And I'm not who you made me. I was a young mother bettering her life before you legally kidnapped me and forced that inhumane torture upon me. I think hearing that from her is obviously a lot more impactful than hearing that from me in this academic context. But I think it shows that you need to think of these individuals as people. I too often hear people still to this day say, you know, it's just prostitution. It's, you know, it's their choice. They should be able to do that if they want to do that. They decided to do that. Why can't they leave? To me, this kind of sums that up pretty well. And, I admire her for saying that, and I thank her for saying that. And the two people that she made the statement against, one is serving a sentence of over 40 years, and one is serving a sentence of minimum of over 55 years. So that's something else that I wanted to make clear and let people know that, we're slowly but surely making these cases, prosecuting these cases, and these individuals are answering for what they've done. I'll get off that soapbox.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to tell you a story. It's a true story. I'm going to change up a few details because I have to. Again, the work that I do is a victim survivor advocate, a trainer, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm still a lawyer. Hey, after surviving law school, I'm not giving up my ticket until they're saying, see you later, pal. So, but I'm not practicing laws, although it's invaluable that I was a prosecutor, that I am a lawyer still, because it allows me to have conversations with people that without that, it wouldn't be as effective. This is a story, and I'm going to call her Chloe. And I think this story helps tie together not only what we're doing here, but all the people that are here, Nicole and then Trooper Cachara. So this is a few years ago. I'm home. I'm on call, and I'm when the phone buzzes, when I get a text, and it was the Director of Violence Intervention Prevention at the YWCA of Greater Harrisburg. What you doing? And when I get a text about 6 p.m, what you doing? And I'm on call, I know I'm going somewhere. And she said, 2 troopers just brought a kid, she's 17 or 18, into Harrisburg Hospital's emergency department. She's in trauma bay. Can you go? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I get there. There are 2 plainclothes troopers with, I'll call her 18-year-old girl from Central PA. She's a mess. She is kind of holding herself in a ball. She's on a gurney in the emergency department. The floor nurse has already got an IV in her. She is high as a kite coming down off of Molly, coming down off of ecstasy. She is hyperventilating. She's stressed. She's everything because she has just literally escaped with her life. And I walk in. And so you got these 2 plainclothes troopers who were wonderfully trauma informed and just it couldn't be 2 better people. I mean, they're fantastic. And the floor nurse and then I walk in. I said, hey, I'm with the YWCA of Greater Harrisburg. Listen, I'm here to help you. I mean, there's things we can do. Let's talk. What can we do? So here's her story. Chloe grew up in a home with domestic violence. When Chloe was about 12, she was raped in the home by one of mom's on-again, off-again boyfriends, 2 younger siblings. And there were a parade of men in and out of mom's life, which meant they were in and out of Chloe's life. When Chloe was about 12, she started using. She started using drugs because she's medicating away pain. Nobody wants to be in pain. And this is trauma, psychological pain. She had a 12-year-old friend, and I say friend in air quotes. So her 12-year-old female friend is her friend, not really, and drug supplier. And we see this all the time. 12-year-olds selling to 12-year-olds. Whatever she could get her hands on. And Chloe go in and out of drug usage. And she was different. We both seen, and I'm putting it in Nicole, we both seen, if you get slammed with like heroin or crack or coke or meth, a lot of times you're just staying on that highway. She would get on and off the different drug highways. It was weird. And she wasn't using all the time, and then she would. So for 5-6 years, the friend, Trooper Cachara. Welcome, sir. Good, sir. Thank you. Have a seat and we'll get you in. Thank you. This is Jason Cachara. He is a gentleman who is out there on the street making cases that Heather prosecutes. So Chloe's using off and on. Her friend texts her. This is like 10 weeks before I meet her in the ED. Says, hey, what you doing? I met two guys down in South Carolina. They just scored big, wink, wink. And Chloe understood that to mean these are drug guys and they got some drug, they scored a big, big sale. 2-week free party, just get yourself here. So Chloe, without talking to her mom, gets herself down there. And let's say it's the Red Roof Inn, room 227. Gets there, knocks on the door. The door opens. In the back of the room, she sees her friend. Two arms, two different guys, two arms grab her, pull her in, slam the door, beat her, rape her, and tell her. This is a direct quote. We own your ass now, you're ours. I will tell you, Nicole and I have heard that type of a term more times than we can count. Heather has heard victims, survivors tell her that during witness prep. Ownership of a human being. And what begins then is 10 weeks, 3 different southern states, raped 15 to 20 times a day, sometimes more. She lost track. She said, I couldn't keep track. Her friend recruited her on the street. The term is called bottom bitch. That's a gang term. That's a street term. If you ever hear the term bottom bitch or bottom, your alarm bell should be going off. The friend says, Chloe is fast. She will run. So every morning they started off this, stepping on her feet and ankles. So she would hobble, so she couldn't run. She was sold from one gang to another at one point, and then a decision was made to send her north, to send her to New York. Her friend was given a car, cash, not credit cards, car, cash. It was implied a gun, and get her to New York. So they're coming out of the South, they're coming up 81. Before they left, the current pimp said, and the other gang members said, if you try and run, we will kill you. She will kill you. We will kill you. We will find you. And she'd seen enough violence beyond the sexual violence of being raped 15, 20 times a day, the physical intimidation, beating violence that is that world. Scared to death. They're driving up 81. And she recognizes 81 in central PA because this is kind of her turf. Her friend, they need gas. She pulls into, I'm not going to say the name of the chain, figure it out, pulls in and says, okay, I got to get gas. You move, you're dead. Goes in, pays cash, gets gas, comes back and says, you know what, I need cigarettes. You move, you're dead. And this is where, and we've all seen this. Sometimes you have 15 seconds to save your life. There's sometimes 15 seconds matters. And Chloe realizes that at any of these places, there are cameras everywhere, front and back, gas pumps, lobby, I mean, you name it. You can't move in one of these places without a camera picking you up. She's passenger side. She pops the door, but leaves it so it appears closed. And as the friend is getting in, Chloe stumbles, hops, runs around the front of the car, runs into the lobby, and starts screaming bloody murder. People are going, the camera showed the friend getting out, What the camera didn't show or didn't pick up, because it was just video, you're dead. Then she looks around, she looks at the people looking to her, gets in the car and drives. By the way, state police picked her up later. State police are dispatched on what is called PSP, Troop H, where Jason works. They came, they picked her up, the emergency department, and then there we are. And she's describing what these 10 weeks are to us. So she's getting wonderful medical treatment. Jen is fantastic. The doc stopped by, you know, she's coming down because she's so scared, but the troopers are assuring her that nobody's coming in. And I'm talking to her about getting her to shelter. I'm talking to her about all the things that we can do for free, that what we do at the YW in terms of medical care. We can get her drug and alcohol treatment. We can get her housing, clothes. I mean, you name it. We directly or indirectly, we do that. And then, so I'm outside, and, you know, and she's in there, and Nicole comes, and Nicole is the safe nurse, the sexual assault forensic exam nurse, the forensic nurse that was paged. Nicole and I hadn't met each other before that. And Nicole says, have you guys talked about a rape kit yet? I said, no, not yet. I think we're cool. We're getting there. We can do that. So we went in to talk about a rape kit. And Chloe's asking questions. And one of the things she said was, there have been so many men. Because Nicole's going to do more about this. I mean, but you know, like, there's swabs, there's all these things. There's been so many men. And Nicole explained, well, look, we both explained, it's your call. I mean, the patient victim decides if there's a rape kit. And Nicole said, look, if there's DNA, you know, we'll send it to the lab. If it's more than one, if there's a hit in the data bank, we will let you know. If there's one or more and they're not in the data bank yet, that becomes Chloe's John Doe this date. And she says, okay, I'll do it. The credit for the trauma and bridging that goes to Nicole. That's why she's here. Because none of us get anything done unless all of us are here. So I say, okay, I'm stepping out and draw the curtain. And Jen and Nicole are in there. And I hear Chloe say, Steve, will you stay outside? While this is going on. I said, yeah. 3 different times. She says, Steve, are you still there? I said, yeah, I'm here. I'm here. They're done. Curtain back. Chloe says, will you watch TV with me? Because, you know, in the bay, there's, you know, those little TVs that drop down out of the ceiling. And she said, do they have Nickelodeon? And I go, Jen, you guys have Nick? Yeah, it's what, channel 27, whatever. SpongeBob is on. And she said, will you watch SpongeBob with me? So there I am, bedside, with an 18-year-old who's 4, who never had a chance to be 4, and she's 39 with miles on her. 3 people in one. And all she wanted was to stop the violence and be. So we watched. While this is going on, the bottom, her friend, she told the troopers that the friend, the bottom, I mean, she knows where mom and the siblings live. So the troopers dispatched 2 other troopers to that house and said to mom, Chloe's in the ER. She's going to be okay. Pack 4 to 5 days of clothes. We're getting you out of here because so-and-so is threatening. So PSP is doing a witness relocation. I talk her into coming to shelter. We get there about 2 o'clock in the morning. I've been texting the shelter back and forth the whole time. Listen, I know we're at capacity. You got to get me a room by herself. Just because, I mean, it's a crowded shelter. But we got her a room, a bed pack. I said, we did a rape kit. So she needs underwear, socks, pants, shirt, sneakers, like everything. She needs everything. So we had that waiting. Next morning, she comes down to my cubicle, my computer. She said, it's the first time I slept in 10 weeks. She goes onto my laptop. She disables her social media. We start talking about rehab, about all sorts of stuff, again, that we can do. And 36 hours later, she walked out the door. She left. You think I'm a mess now? I cried like a baby. And look, I'm sorry. I mean, what I'm giving you is what this is. We tried to track her on Backpage, which is one of those pages, and Backpage allegedly is disabled, but not really. But there's a million pages where all this nonsense goes on, all this horror goes on. She called a couple times. She called our hotline, which is 24/7. She asked for me or Tanya. Tanya was another advocate that worked with, we were working together. Remember Tanya? Maybe not. Yeah. And neither one of us were there when she called because we were probably in the ED or with troopers or at a homeless shelter or on the street or whatever. And about 2 months later, the hotline rang. I was sitting there and I picked it up and it was her. And she said to me, "Are you mad at me?" I said, "My God, no. I said, "I'm so glad you're alive. Where are you?" She was in Scranton. She said, "It's really bad out here. Can I come home?" A crowded domestic violence trafficking shelter where everyone is carrying around huge suitcases filled with trauma. And it's not anybody's fault that's there. Can I come home? So yeah, absolutely. I picked her up that night at the bus station. There were 2 pimps screening people coming off the bus. I mean, Jason, we've seen stuff like that. I mean, 2 pimps screening, because who's coming off the bus at 10:30, 10:45 from Scranton to Harrisburg? They saw her, she saw me, I saw one of them like, They have, like Heather was saying, they have this incredible evil radar. They know who is vulnerable. They know. She came with us, and what she said was, it was really, really bad out there. But I told people about those troopers. They they were so good to me about the nurses, about what we did. And she said, I told other girls that I was with, if you want out and you can get to Harrisburg, they will take you in, even at 2 a.m. She stayed with us for about 10 days before she again left. And 7 months later, she came back a third time, 4 months pregnant using meth. Beat up and methed out. Stayed for 2 weeks and she's in the wind. I don't know if she's alive. But I will tell you this, while that may not sound like much of a success in the work that we do, she came back. She stayed longer. She talked about what we did. But that is the cost. Oh man, I'm so sorry. So that's what this is. This is rape for profit. This is serial rape for profit. The National Trafficking Hotline, I'm going to have that number up at the end. The National Trafficking Hotline is run by Polaris, the Polaris Project out of Washington, D.C. They are not only an incredibly credible supplier of information about trafficking, but they run a 24/7, 365 hotline that no matter who you are, a victim, a survivor, a cop, a prosecutor, a social worker, a nurse, true story, a soccer mom from Pittsburgh, a self-described soccer mom from Pittsburgh, who had 2 boys at a hotel in Pittsburgh for a soccer tournament. And she saw 2 approximately 15-year-old girls being kind of just really thrown around and pushed into a room. And one of the girls looked at her over the shoulder, like eyes wide open. And soccer mom said, she called the hotline. She said, I'm a soccer mom, but I saw something. Long story short, Pittsburgh Police Department rolls up, checks out the license plate, boom, 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 2 girls rescued out of a hotel because mom saw something that stunk. This is a heat map. This shows the intensity of phone calls coming in to that hotline. As you can see, from west of Chicago all the way over here, the only places there aren't calls is the Blue Ridge Parkway and a swamp in Alabama. We glow orange, red, yellow. The rural areas, it's there. Some of our little counties in Pennsylvania where there's more deer and bear than people, it's there. There's no place it's not. And out west, any population center at all is glowing. That's the hotline. I have some brochures here from our project, the Pennsylvania Alliance Against Trafficking Humans 15. We have, thank you, Jess. And I gotta say again, Jessica, I mean, she is a force of nature making this thing happen. Thank you. We have the YW hotline and the hotline from the National Trafficking Hotline. They set it up a little differently. And this is a memory device. And talking to survivors on the street, they will tell you that normally, you have 3, 3, and 4 numbers, but that 888-3737-888, you can remember that. It's easier to memorize, to just kind of drill into yourself if you need it. Heather, you got to jump up here. I'm just rolling, pal. No, I mean, whatever you want, but I mean, this is the money shot. This feeds right into Heather's world and Jason's world. This is why some drug dealers are going hybrid. Some drug dealers are also doing human trafficking. Why? Whatever drug you're selling, grams, bags, ounces, multiple ounces, a half key, a key, whatever it is, coke, crack, meth, molly, heroin, fentanyl, combinations, infinite street names that change all the time. Whatever it is, you've got to get it, you've got to cut it, you've got to step on it, you have to bag it, you have to get it to your distribution network. You have to sell it, you have to have holders, you have to have people watching out for the cops, your external security, your internal security. And then when you've sold all of it, you got to get more. But if you own human beings, if you own women, men, girls, boys, and you can sell them, and this is low. I mean, I've seen as low as 50 and up to 250, 300. It depends the price. It depends location, price, demand, whatever. You hold them until they die or they escape. And you just keep using them. It's like the drugs keep populating themselves. Your product stays. Is there any war story you want to work in, or you want to keep rolling?
I'll say mine.
Okay. So, and look, we've got stats coming out our ears here. The bottom line is, and again, this is so good that we have Heather and Jason here. Every statistic about criminal activity, we have a retired FBI agent here. Every statistic about criminal activity, it is always below the number. If you pick up a drug dealer, you flip up the rock and 10 more scatter. You're never, I mean, the bad guys, whatever the product is, drugs, people, guns, they want their product out there. They want to stay hidden. They want their money, and they don't want to get caught. It's not that these folks aren't working all the time. It's that the bad guys are clever, and we don't have enough good guys and gals to do this. Estimates, $150 billion, probably more. And now with Bitcoin and crypto, pre-COVID, Google, Starbucks, Nike, NFL, less than trafficking. And the children. What we have seen and what the stats say is that average entry age is by 12. And I hate to say it, but the age is dropping. I had one kid, she was picked up in a sting at one of the hotels on Eisenhower Boulevard in Swatera Township, suburban Harrisburg here. There's 15 hotels up and down Eisenhower. And Swatera police had a tip lead, they did a raid, and they pulled a 14-year-old girl out of one of the rooms. The others in the room, there were 3 others. They were all over 18, and this 14-year-old. She was a chronic runaway from New York, and they held her at Schaffner Youth Center on a chronic runaway warrant. And we would go in to see her, and it took a while. It took a lot of work to talk to her and to build some trust. But she said that the first time she was raped was when she was 5. And she was in one foster care scenario after another because her mother, she was one of 10, and mom couldn't keep any of them. So we don't know what the number is. Again, this is not trying to know. The range is huge. Why the range? Every county and every state has a CYS, has a Children and Youth Services. They're not all called CYS, but every state has something like that, like we do here in Pennsylvania, CYS. So they poll CYS type offices, FBI, state police agencies, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, other databases, and they come up with a range that is wide open. And so this is what the bad guys want. They want the vulnerable. And whether it's US or foreign. One thing we are seeing since 2014, we are now on our third Department of Justice, Office of Victims of Crime grant that the YWC of Greater Harrisburg runs for 12 counties. Since about October 2014, generally what we're seeing is about 80% of the trafficking survivors we work with are US citizens and 20% are foreign nationals. Different months fluctuate a bit. Of the US citizens, 95% grew up in a home with domestic violence. 95% were raped or sexually assaulted by the time they were 12. I want to be careful. Does that mean that if you survive domestic violence, you're going to be trafficked? No. Does it mean if you're raped or sexually assaulted, you're going to be trafficked? No. But here's what is an issue. Trauma. Trauma, trauma, trauma. Because the more trauma, and this is where I'm out of my lane. We have a nurse here. We have two nurses here. But I know enough to know that trauma rewires your brain. It has lasting impacts about everything you do and learn and see. The runaway, walk away, throw away kids. And we've all seen that. We've seen those houses where the door is hanging open and there's the person in charge is 12 or 13 or 14, if that. Homelessness. That's why I spend a lot of time on the street with homeless outreach agencies and with foster care agencies. Because they're untethered, which means they are vulnerable. And refugees and fleeing conflict, and guess what? We've got now a flood of Afghan refugees coming in. And both the Taliban, who have a long history of sex and labor trafficking, and the Afghan national government, which has a long history of sex trafficking, both the Taliban and the just recently deposed Afghan government both use child soldiers. So we're talking people who have been through trauma. And that means they're vulnerable. Now, I know I'm not in a medical school, but here's the thing. This is why, again, we need this team of law enforcement, medical, prosecutors, all of us, social service. 80% of trafficking victims have had contact with the healthcare system. That is why I spend so much time in the emergency department trauma units. Because that's ground zero. But it's not just the ED. Labor and delivery, family practice, OBGYN, pediatrics. You name it, it's there. All right. And I had, again, when there were a few of you folks that were here early on before we got rolling, actually. And this says healthcare professionals. This applies to cops, prosecutors, social workers, drug and alcohol, lawyers, law students, anyone. The control. The domestic violence protocol, Nicole and I, we work on this. When somebody comes in to an ED, Nicole, would you just stand up for a second here? I want to do my partial manhandling demonstration. You know, so what happens is Nicole's got a broken nose, a black eye, whatever. Oh, I'm sorry. And so we're in the ED, and I'm literally bringing her in like this, and I said, and the nurse will say, "What happens?" Like, "You fell down the steps again, didn't you?" And she's scared, eyes down, not responding, or looking to me, looking to me for permission to answer. "You're clumsy, aren't you? You were drunk again, weren't you?" All those things. The domestic violence protocol exists, thank you. The domestic violence protocol exists to then separate patient from perpetrator. So you can try and get what's going on and offer help and assistance. Submission, fearfulness, lack of control over their documents and movements. One of the things we used to see with foreign nationals all the time was that if they had a passport or a visa, that was taken. Now, US citizens, your driver's license is taken. Your social security card is taken. Because in this room and virtually, if any of us need to do anything important, can we do it without a driver's license or a soc? No, no. That's why we go to PennDOT and Social Security every other week, helping to restore identity documents for people in our shelter. Age appears younger than stated. Trafficking 101, perp 101. No matter how old you are, you're at least 18. You're at least 18. How old are you? I'm 50. No, you're not. How old are you? 18. Age of majority. I've seen kids and they stick with their story for a while and there's no way they're 18. But then when they feel okay, you'll get a story. So screening questions. What are you doing? What's your job? Can you leave? Can you come and go? And, we're required by the feds to have a screening questionnaire. The Department of Justice wants that, and we have one. But we never sit there with a questionnaire. I mean, I can tell you, if I said, hi, my name's Steve. Okay, I think you're a trafficking victim, so I'm going to ask you some questions. Yeah, exactly. It's soft, trauma-informed conversation. You get paid. Who holds your money? Do you get to keep your money? One of the best two, where do you sleep and eat? I know a handful of you in this room, but I don't need to know, and out there virtually, I don't need to know any of you to know this. You know where you're going home tonight. You know you have a bed, you have an address, you have a location. They don't. They don't know. And when you ask that question and it works in and they're feeling relaxed and trusting, I never know. It depends. It depends. Again, poker face, trauma informed, but okay, we're getting somewhere. Anyone threatened your family? Heather talked about this. The number one thing you want to do, if you have a mother with one or more children, you want to identify where those kids are, and you want to threaten them. Because then you have ready-made hostage or hostages. And so now, if mom wants to go, mom has to design her escape plan for her, one or more kids, and also coming out with a substance abuse addiction. Where do you get your drugs and how do you get them? Well, I don't pay for them, I trade. You want to do your...
Yeah, if you're.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
When I saw, go 2 slides back,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I saw, do you have, can I still have?
Oh, yeah, see, this is what happens. I mean, the engineer ran the train off the tracks. My apologies, there you go.
No, I actually wanted to jump in here for a second because when you were talking about this, when we were preparing, I saw it and it reminded me of a real life example I saw of the signs, symptoms, and indicators. I didn't see the healthcare professionals part. I think this can apply, like Steve said, to a lot of different people. I have an example that I thought was, I think is very, very interesting and kind of hard to believe when you first hear it. But I had a case that was brought to me a witness was brought to me to interview, and she was going to testify. I'm talking to her, I'm prepping her. She's an Uber driver, and I'm asking her questions about what happened and how this unfolded. And she's telling me this story about a young woman that she picks up at a Hampton Inn in King of Prussia in Montgomery County. And her instructions are to bring this young woman to Center City, Philadelphia. She picks up the young girl. This woman, middle-aged woman, immediately picks up on the fact that the girl in the back seat, the young girl, her passenger, is uncomfortable. She starts engaging in conversation with this young girl. Where are you from? What do you do? Just general questions like that. And she's picking up on the fact that this young girl, the passenger, doesn't really know where she is. The passenger, the young girl, asks the Uber driver where certain places are. She's on her phone. She said, you know, can we stop here? I need a money order. And the places where she's asking to stop are like 50, 100 miles away from where they are. It makes no sense in reference to their path of travel from King of Prussia to Philadelphia. Girl says, I have cash, but I need to get a money order. So they stop at, I think, an Acme or some grocery store where there's a bank inside and she can get a money order. And the girl, the passenger, says, if anybody calls or reaches out to me through the Uber number, don't tell anybody that I went in to the Acme that I have any money. Girl goes into the Acme to get her money order. Person who's later identified as the trafficker reaches out to the Uber driver, starts asking questions. Why did you stop? Where are you? What are you doing? Bells start to go off in the Uber driver's head. She tells the trafficker where they are and what they're doing, because she just panics. She's not expecting these questions. She thinks this is odd. She's just an average person, and she's, you know, trying to just do her job. Girl gets back in the car. They're driving. The Uber driver finally tells the girl, somebody did call, and I told them where you were and what you were doing. The girl just kind of loses it, starts to cry. Why did you do that? You couldn't, I can't believe you did that. And this is exactly how it was relayed to me. The Uber driver turns around, looks at the girl and said, honey, are you being trafficked? Well, when I heard that, I thought, that can't really be how it happened. You couldn't, is that really, I'm trying to ask some follow-up questions. Like, you really just turned around and said, are you being trafficked? And lo and behold, she had been at a public awareness, human trafficking training like 2 weeks before that. And someone presented probably very similar signs, symptoms, indicators of human trafficking. And the Uber driver said she was confused about where she was. She didn't seem to have control. She didn't seem to have a lot of belongings with her. She didn't know where she was going. And then it all started to make sense. I realized this Uber driver is telling me the truth. This is really what happened. She didn't just see something in a movie and is making it up. At the time, as soon as the girl breaks down and says, yes, I think maybe I am, I think I need help, the Uber driver, the woman, pulls over to the side of the road on the Schuylkill Expressway on 76 going east, and there happens to be a marked state police car. And she tells them what happened. The story gets even more bizarre and interesting from there, but the right people get involved, the right people are called, and the case ends up being prosecuted. We find out that that young girl was brought in by her trafficker from California to Georgia and then brought up to Pennsylvania. He ended up being prosecuted, and he's now serving like over 30 years in a federal prison. But I like that story because it shows how much of a difference one person could make in others' lives. And the credit doesn't necessarily go to, you know, the law enforcement and prosecutors, the system, but none of those people could have done anything but for that Uber driver's actions. And she wouldn't have known what to look for if she wasn't presented with this information and didn't care enough to go be educated and then actually be brave enough to make use of it. So
Yeah.
I just find that to be an amazing story.
And again, that's if you see something, say something. Nicole. Yes, ma'am. It's your turn. And then Jason's got cleanup.
I'm supposed to stand up here.
Yes, ma'am. Whatever you want to do.
Hi, I'm Nicole. Thank you for having me. I'm the unit director of the Forensic Nursing Department in UPMC Harrisburg. Just a little background, if you heard Steve mention SAFE, there was terms SAFE, SANE, and forensic nursing. SAFE is sexual assault forensic examiner, sexual assault forensic exam, and then there's SANE, sexual assault nurse examiner, and then forensic nursing. We kind of use forensic nursing nowadays because it's more that broad term, because we see our patients more than just sexual assault. So our services include sexual assault, child abuse, domestic violence, human trafficking, strangulation, even elder abuse. Actually, anybody who comes in to the hospital that reports some type of criminal activity abuse. So with that criminal activity, part of our role, at first, we're registered nurses first. So we provide that medical care, make sure that person's healthy and there's no acute injuries. Following that, we have a little specialized education in identifying injury and that legal aspect. We kind of join that health and medical into that legal section. We have to be updated with the PA laws, how to protect our patients, when to report, and what we need to follow when we need to make that mandated report. So that's a little background on forensic nursing. So at UPMC, we, like I said, we see patients who reports assault or abuse. With the human trafficking, we have that specialized education to kind of identify these risk factors that patients come in. We work with Steve to kind of educate the hospital, majority of that ED personnel on how to identify those risk factors. So when a patient presents with these kind of signs and symptoms, they'll call one of us, a forensic nurse, to come in, either consult on a patient, which that means like we can talk to that patient. We want to try to get that patient alone, especially if they have a partner with them in that room. Like Steve mentioned, with those signs that control and not letting that, we call them patients. They're not like our victims, they're our patients. Not letting that patient speak or not letting that patient answer if that patient has like no, kind of like avoiding eye contact, very submission, seems scared, no ID, handling, not their money. So those signs, so the ED is trained to kind of contact us. And then we further kind of investigate and assess that patient. We try to get that patient alone from that partner in that room, which sometimes we might have to kind of say that there's an x-ray, even if there isn't an x-ray, or say that there's a test involved that you are not permitted to go, especially an x-ray is perfect because it's in that special room that really nobody can go. We can go in, talk to that patient alone. Sometimes if that patient needs a urine sample, we can kind of walk that patient to the restroom. One part of our job is we're not going to force that patient to be separated from that possible trafficker or that partner that's in that room. For one, we don't want to risk our safety, that patient victim safety. We're not here to rescue that patient victim. We're actually here to kind of provide resources, make sure that they're aware that there is a place either within a hospital, the YWCA, local police jurisdiction, wherever, but there is resources and help out there. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize that patient's safety. And we also want to provide that medical care because this might be the only chance that that patient has time to get their sexually transmitted infections treated, get whatever medical issue that they came in for to get treated. So we want to make sure they're treated. A lot of times with traffickers, they only bring in their victim when it starts affecting their work. So when it comes that time that patient really needs that medical care. So we want to provide that care if that's all we can do. And then maybe offer that resource if we can. Again, it's all about their safety, our safety. We know how to recognize cues of that partner trying to, if he or she is getting a little like aggravated, nervous. There was one time I even had a patient, I got called because the registered nurse, the primary registered nurse was kind of like, something just don't make sense. It was a very older gentleman with a younger girl. The age that she gave just didn't match what she looked. I know people sometimes look younger than what they are, but it was a big age difference. She said she was like 24 and she looked like maybe 12. So by the time I got out, I don't know exactly what happened from the time I walked out to the time, but the person who was with this patient got spooked somehow and they left the room. In the hospital, we can't force somebody to stay. We did think that patient was underage, so we did call law enforcement. Anybody who presents human trafficking, even risk factors, any even inch of like a chance of human trafficking, if they're under the age 17 and younger, we do call law enforcement. Anybody 18 and over, we think about that safety, and that's that choice of that patient. So that's more like our consult when we see that patient. We mentioned rape kit, our sexual assault evidence collection kit. So with our sexual assault patients, a lot of times trafficking might occur at the same time. Again, trafficking, sex, drugs, trafficking, it seems like it all intertwines. With that, that trauma becomes a major effect. So we care for that patient physically, but we also care for that patient mentally, emotionally. Our medical forensic exams, and we also call like a safe exam, can take 3 to 6 hours, sometimes 7 or 8, depending on that patient's needs, what this patient needs from us at that time. So if a patient does come in and report having being forced to have sexual encounters with multiple partners, some might say they are trafficked. Some might just realize like your victim, just kind of realize that they were trafficked. Some don't know that they're trafficked. Majority of them don't know. Like I think you said, and at times in the emergency department, it can be their brother, their father or mother, boyfriend. I felt like I encountered trafficking patients with the boyfriend involved, even though that boyfriend was probably like 30 years younger. I mean, sometimes that happens. But I do believe I've encountered, we weren't able to save that patient at that time, but to provide resources and let them know that there are people at the hospital within the community to help. So if somebody does come in, like with Chloe, I was called to do the sexual assault evidence collection kit. I don't really want to repeat what Steve said, but she was all over the place. The emotions, the trauma that she experienced within those days held captive. Usually when we have a patient who reports sexual assault, one encounter, there's many emotionals, fear, anxiety. They could be crying, laughing. I had many patients I seen just laughing. I had one patient actually took a selfie and posted on Snapchat that she was getting a rape kit. Had people not talk, had people very talkative, wanted to eat. Some people portray that as nothing happened to them. They're okay. They're laughing, smiling. Everybody handles trauma differently. brain has a very great way of protecting yourself. So however, that brain is kind of either blocking memories, kind of avoiding memories at that time, especially with that acute trauma that they're experiencing. There's many different emotions. Everybody will have a different kind of portray of trauma. It can affect acutely, chronic, years, have a lifetime of experience of trauma that lasts a lifetime. So a part of our role that collecting evidence. So in that medical forensic exam that we do within like Chloe's story, I collected that evidence. I looked her over head to toe, looking for bruises. Again, making sure she was calm enough to be able to like actually really listen to what I was telling her, what the next step is. We don't do anything that patient doesn't want us to. We get consent on every single step of the exam. So 1 minute she's focused, she's talking, and next thing she's like looking and she's starting to shake. And I know, remember, she kept saying, I want to smoke a cigarette. Then she would go on and just repeat how many guys, like there's going to be too many. She did tell me she was forced, penile vaginal penetration with her trafficker. And she told me that I really wanted to get enough evidence as I could. So it took a while for that exam to keep kind of trying to refocus her. But I did head to toe examination, take photos of those injuries. So we document those injuries. We take 3 photos, one far away, one close up, and then one with a measuring table. So I did that. Bruises on her foot. I think I probably have 80 some photos just of her physical injuries. And then the genital exam. That becomes very difficult for the patient. Again, we're invading an area that was abused over and over and over again. So again, we take breaks. She did great. The Chloe she did great. All of the patients do great. I think we take our time. I have a great team of nurses who really take that compassion, that trauma-informed approach. Like I said, our exams can take hours to complete because we want to make sure that patient is mentally prepared for what kind of exam we're going to complete. So the vaginal exam, you take those swabs and try to obtain that DNA. And then we send that off. We package that up. We send that off to the crime lab for a possible DNA hit. And patients do have a right for those results. So after that, not only do we like treat and care for her medically, and then take that forensic evidence collection, and then again, all along is that emotional support. That's when we make sure they have follow-up with the Y, give the time for the YWCA advocate to talk to the patient, law enforcement, if they have any follow-ups, crisis intervention, if they're suicidal or homicidal. Also, we have a whole like folder with packages of community services. Pennsylvania has free counseling services for sexual assault victims. So we go over that, free STD clinics. I know that's the one thing that we try to prevent. So we do offer sexually transmitted infection tests at the hospital. Within 72 hours, if they come in from their trafficking or their sexual assault, we can start them on an HIV prophylaxis medication. That's a little bit more in depth. That could be a whole nother like presentation. So I'm not going to go through that. But there's a lot of things involved with that to start that medication. So we treat for those sexually transmitted infections. We do a pregnancy prevention. Again, whatever that patient allows us to do and wants, we will offer that service to them. And then also we make a follow-up call to make sure if there's any other services, how else we can call. Sometimes we even call to like make appointments with like a counselor. whatever we can do. And I know the YWCA advocates are great about following up as well. So all with that, with our safe cases, most of them don't go to trial, but I think I've got, the years I've been doing this, what, 9 years, I think I've got called to court maybe 8 times, which is good. But we also have that training to testify in court. So we work closely with district attorneys to kind of better ourselves in that testifying, for the Commonwealth. So that is about
Thank
everything
you.
about like our medical forensic.
Thanks so much. Trooper Cachara. Yes, sir. I've got, let me pull this up for you. There it is. Hold on. Thank you, sir. I'm just thrilled that I didn't kill the whole thing. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So this will not be. You need to be in front of the podium. I certainly can be, yes.
Do that too if you want.
Yeah, you can do that.
Thank you.
You guys hear me all right? Is that better? All right. This will not be death by PowerPoint. I agree with what I heard before about staying in our lane most of the time. Anyway, part of my lane is to point out that, I don't know if you guys know Steve Turner or not that quiet man. I saw in the window that he's got the welding helmet on. I thought, good, that's going to help tone him down a little bit, but instead he's got a microphone.
Oh, this is tough.
Yeah, Steve wasn't, but and Jason Cachara asked me to come down here and talk a little bit. I think I've already heard a wide range, very specific. What to do. Very briefly, do our role in this fight. A little bit about me. In Florida State Police for about 22-ish years. Vast majority of that time I've spent.
You're fine.
Vast majority of that time I spent doing criminal investigation. Based is 5 counties, 6 stations, all in this geographic area here. We're talking about Dauphin County, Perry County, Cumberland County, Adams County, Franklin County. In 15 years doing criminal investigations throughout this troop, what we see is
Now you're on. Did I turn it off?
Yeah.
I apologize. As far as our jurisdiction goes in the state police, as far as in terms of the crimes we're investigating, I, by my choosing, have spent a majority of that time in criminal investigations, following up on and investigating child abuse allegations, which unfortunately are largely sex abuse allegations. And the other portion of my job is death investigations, everything including homicides and things of that nature. So that's kind of my background. And I explain that background to you just so that you can see when I'm going to explain what I'm going to try to explain is that we're not really in the best situation that we could be in to investigate these things. You heard the story about Chloe, and I have no role in that story at all. But it's always so familiar when I hear that story about how difficult things are. And we could say, well, that's not really a success. Well, you could argue that it is a success on a lot of different levels because these types of cases are just that difficult that they're not going to be necessarily always a win. I took a couple slides here, just out of some things we've done presentations on in the past, and I think if any of us look at these types of things and you take a look at that picture, what you have is that one person trying to run that giant boulder up a hill. And none of us here can do any of this stuff by ourselves. And these success stories that you've heard about, you can't do by yourselves. None of us here can do it by ourselves. And in truth, really, it could be argued too that all of us working together could still fail at these cases because of the nature of the victims, because of the nature of the lifestyles that they've kind of lived with the threats and those type of things. Is it this one? There we go. So this is kind of what we're after, you know, more in terms of a group effort. And you could look at those people as any individual discipline, whether it's schools, whether it's medical professionals, prosecutors and other attorneys, children youth services, law enforcement, all kinds of people play a role in that. You know, certainly medical professionals are at the forefront of those things. I'd like to point this out to give you, again, my role here tonight is just to give you a snapshot of where we are sometimes with these investigations. Amongst the people I work with, we say about so-and-so is an expert in something. These people are much more of an expert in these fields than what I am here talking to you. I'm more of an expert in being interested in these things. I'm more of an expert in being able to help readily identify and investigate these things. But I'm not here to talk to you about a ton of success stories because I feel like we're behind. And here's a great peek, I think, into just the way we do things criminal investigation wise. There's probably 20, 14, 15, somewhere around there. I was working at the State Police in Chambersburg, and there was an opportunity to go to a multidisciplinary approach type child sex trafficking training. It's a week-long thing. It was in New York. And the multidisciplinary system is basically having a prosecutor there with you, having law enforcement there with you, having forensic interviewers there with you, having children youth services there with you. So you've got all these different disciplines. You're going to go to this training for a week and you're going to learn about child sex trafficking. One of the supervisors at where I had worked came to me and said, "I see you're going to training next week. What is that training for?" And I said, "Well, it's about child sex trafficking. I'm going to learn something new, see what we can delve into." And he said, "Yeah, because we got a whole lot of that going on around here." As if you're wasting your time going to do that. And from that point forward, it made me really hate the word trafficking. No offense to you guys, but hate the word trafficking because of the polarizing effect it has, just the word itself. All right. We don't have trafficking going on around here. Well, I sat through that training for a week with our team and I start picking up on things, right? Like they're teaching you about the way these lifestyles have evolved and then the way they're going to interface with law enforcement on occasion. You start going, I remember that with a case. And I remember that with another case. And I remember that with another case. So it was that education that grew those type of things among us to kind of say, well, we've screwed up here and we missed this. And we have no idea what we're talking about here. So it's just that growing curve, that acceleration that when we talk about trafficking to people, even our own people, like amongst ourselves, we try to talk about what we're actually talking about. So when we try to do that, we try to talk too about what we're not talking about. So we're not talking about kids tied up in basements. We're not talking about youth being smuggled or shipped different places. We're not talking about the kidnapper vans. And I had the gold qualifier in there to tell you, I'm not saying none of that ever happens. I'm not saying that doesn't take place. All I'm saying is when we talk about this at PSP, that's not what we're talking about. So what we are talking about is just that, child prostitution, teen prostitution. You're talking about a sexual exploitation of at-risk youth in our communities. So when you can structure things that way, I think people understand it more. I know we struggle, me and my coworkers to understand a lot of those things in terms of trafficking and what it is and what we can do. But we're talking about, like it says here, a commercial sex act that's either coerced or organized in some way. So I just want to share with you guys through the course of that training, years ago, it created a lot of change in some of us, or the way we look at things and go back and examine things. We start looking at runaways a little different, right? Instead of runaways just being a pain in our backside that we just have to follow up on, you start seeing why they're running away. What's actually going on with these kids. You see drug overdoses the same way. I don't mean fatal drug overdoses, but there are fatal ones. Obviously, we're talking about how we handle drug overdoses when you start interacting with young people or at-risk people. By the very nature of them being a drug overdose patient, gives you more eyes on them to be able to look into their lifestyle a little bit, see if there's something we can actually be doing or should be doing to help them. The bottom line to a lot of this is that our errors, all right, and I'm only speaking for Troop H here as far as the state police go, is just a lack of understanding and recognition of what we're dealing with sometimes. So we're growing that, and I think we're getting better at that. But it's so important to understand when we talk to our people that we've got to look at things more critically. We have to look at things, I'll give you a great example. We were talking earlier about you have an adult sexual assault victim at a hospital that presents a certain way, and this is a victim-centric project, right? We're doing what we want to do, need what we do to help victims, right? So if you have a victim that can present to a hospital, for example, and not want a rape kit done, then they're not going to have that done. If they want to have a rape kit done and it not be tested, they have that option too. If they want to have all that done and it not be investigated, they have that option as well. So it's super important that we focus on the victims in these things, and it's kind of on their timeline, if at all. And so I just want to explain to you the difference a little bit, the difference between what I traditionally have investigated over the years is child abuse cases. So I'll just compare for those that may not know. A typical child abuse case may be somebody that a young person that says something to a guidance counselor, a teacher, a therapist, a family member that, hey, this happened to me, something happened. And we go through a process then, sometimes it's a cookie cutter type process where we kind of go through certain steps and we're trying to get a solid interview with a victim, see if we can build enough information to see what actually happened, and then see if prosecution is a route to take in that type of a case. And unfortunately, that happens a ton, and we've gotten pretty good at that just by sheer numbers. But I would need you guys to understand that when we're dealing with something that we believe to be sex trafficking, whether it's children, whether it's young adults, whether it's somebody that's older, they almost never present this way. They almost never present where, hey, something happened to me, I want to tell somebody about it. So it just creates that extra level of difficulty. And I can tell you that what we've experienced over the years, and anybody would probably understand this, where, hey, somebody presents at an ER and saying that they were sexually assaulted, that something happened. I'm here to help you, right? I'm here to do whatever I can. You're going to be believed. You're going to be helped. I'm going to do whatever I can to help you. But they may just say, go away. I don't want to talk to you. I can care and I can, follow up with them another time. But ultimately, it's up to them to be able to communicate what's happened if they want to, if they don't want to. But what we experience a lot is I can very easily just be like, if you don't want anything done, then I don't need to be here either. And now I leave. And I don't have any role in that person's life at all. What that training and our experiences since then, years ago, has taught us is that these people that are involved in this are never going to volunteer to talk to you about it. So we've got to continue to find ways to grow our intelligence on those people, on her circle of friends, social media, internet, and all these things that can help us investigate these things better so that we can take it to people like Heather for a successful prosecution. But in reality, it's just so much more difficult than a standard child abuse case or a standard sexual assault because of the level of complexity and things that we've seen experienced in these kids' lives. and young adults' lives. So I just want to close by telling you this. Probably 2013 or so, there was a girl that I had interacted with. She was a runaway, and she was found with an older guy. She said that they had had sex at one point. She's 13 years old. He's 24-ish. I don't remember exactly. So again, law enforcement wise, we look at that like, and I'm really rushing through this to dumb it down. What happened? Well, I had sex with this guy. Okay. What crimes do we have? Statutory sexual assault. Okay. Anything else happen? No. Okay. He ends up confessing. He's charged. He goes to jail for a short time. And what you then realize when you actually put different lenses and filters on what has actually happened is we didn't look further enough into her. Okay. And we go back and talk to her again and realize she's been trafficked, and we don't ever figure out if this was a John, if this was a pimp, but she's been trafficked for years. And she was 13 when I met her. And so now we understand what's happened through the course of, pretty complex investigation. But in terms of fruit, there can be very little sometimes, because this girl who I met when she's 13, she's now 18. I've kept a relationship with her and talked to her semi-regularly, although not probably in the last 6 months. And this girl will never tell me what has happened. So we get other advocates and other things involved. So we can know and understand what's happened. That doesn't mean it ever gets to a prosecution place. Again, because of that complexity and difficulty in dealing with these people, because they're not just going to be saying, oh, this happened to me and you can rescue me and you can fix me, because they know that may not be the case. So I just want to point out to you guys, hopefully just explaining it like that it's very difficult where we're at, but we're also in a position where we're understanding it, we're knowing more about it, and we need more of, that help that looks more like that. We don't want this to be one advocate, one law enforcement official, one person at CYS. We want it to be a community of people being able to help roll this big boulder up the hill, because it's important. I would submit to you guys that it's not just in Harrisburg or just in Scranton. I mean, I think, in my opinion, it's in every school district that we have. It's in every town that we have, and it's certainly in every, big city, Chambersburg, Harrisburg, Carlisle, whatever. It exists. And we can't have the idea of, oh, yeah, right, because that happens a lot around here. It does. No matter what terms you use for it, it's trafficking, it's sexual exploitation, it's commercial sex, it's whatever it is, for kids, young adults on up. It exists, and we're going to continue to combat it. Anything else? That's all I have.
That's great. Listen, thank you so much again. Look, the four of us, thank you so much. This has not been a traditional CLE by any measure. We have all put you through a lot here. I'm sorry that I've dragged everybody into the pit. But you know what? We are all so grateful for you here, for you watching. As lawyers, if we ever encounter this is some of the most complex, ethically challenging, difficult work you can do, because people have gone through so much trauma. And as citizens who need to care for each other, we are so grateful that you were here and listened. I pledged that we would be out of here at 6, because CLE, one of the rules of CLE is, hey, when it's over, it's over. So I'm worried that I'm treading right up to the line.
Well, I think we have 3 minutes or so. So we have a few questions that have come in, so I'll throw those out. And this has been asked in different ways, but I think essentially it's the same question. And so it is, I have a strong intuition, gut feeling, suspect that someone is being trafficked, but I don't have any concrete proof. I don't have anything to point to. What should I do?
You and I want to do this?
Yeah, go right ahead.
No, I mean, well, one, this is so good that the trooper chair is here too. One of the things one can do is whatever is driving that concern, and now I'm going to lawyer a little bit in terms of specific and articulable facts. I mean, like if it's not, boy, this stinks. Well, that's difficult to work with, but why? Time, place, motor vehicles, behaviors. There was this great case, the suburban sex brothel case, Lower Paxton Township here. 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath suburban home. They were running sex trafficking out of it. What blew it away was the neighbors got tired at 2 to 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, people coming and going, because that's not the norm. With a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath, 2 garage car place with a neatly trimmed lawn. So people were able to articulate, things that don't make sense, and so that actually, if you can articulate that, you can get beyond just a gut feeling. If you can come up with something.
And I think that's where a lot of it starts is just somebody saying, hey, this doesn't seem right. I mean, we've gotten calls exactly like that may turn into nothing. They may turn into something. But we document things, we follow up on things. We've got another unit within the state police that's statewide that tries to address these things, but they're kind of like us in the criminal investigation realm, where you just get taxed with other things to do. So we kind of communicate about those things. But I think one of the things you would do, I know you probably talk about calling the hotline.
Yes.
The information.
Yes.
You can also call your local law enforcement or state police and talk to somebody specifically and air your concerns, and it'll get funneled to the right people. I would assure you, and we could follow up on it.
Great, thank you. And one more question. What, for the law students that are here, what would your advice to them be for getting involved if they wanted to be more involved in this?
I mean, I'll tell you, well, talk to Jess. I mean, in terms of she's diving head first into this stuff. There are volunteer opportunities. Anything, as law students, you do not have time to take our volunteer victim advocate training at the YWCA Greater Harrisburg. It's like 60 hours of training and blah, blah, blah. But you do have a chance to interact, for example, with legal services or a pro bono or your pro bono operation here. Domestic violence, working with domestic violence victims, you very well may be working with a trafficking survivor who is not yet ready to talk about it. Helping anybody that is facing interpersonal violence of any sort, that's helpful. Reaching out to organizations like the YWCA, like Polaris. There's all sorts of organizations that you can reach out to and get involved, be supportive of, etc. The pro bono piece, though, I'll tell you, as students even, working alongside lawyers that are doing pro bono, it is giving help to those who are left behind in our society. That's one of the greatest gifts you can do. And you're going to learn so much about lawyering and about how fortunate all of us are.
Once again, thank you to all of you for coming, and thank you to all of us that are here and online as well. That is the end of our program.